Preparing for a recession like this is key, especially as the UK is drowning in a cost of living crisis. During this video, I'm going to explain number 1, why recessions happen, number 2, where the UK economy is right now, and number 3, how you can prepare yourself and your family to potentially get through this as unscathed as humanly possible. So number 1, why does a recession happen? And what even is it? A recession takes place when the money supply in the economy starts to become limited, which in turn leads to goods and services being bought less. Side note, when you hear the term goods and services being bought in the economy, this is what GDP is. So when you heard GDP has gone down, think there's less goods and services being bought in the economy. I know it's all a little bit confusing, so feel free to stop the video and rewind it if you get confused. I know it's a handful to take in, so let me explain it in more simple terms. So let's say the kitchen tap represents the money supply in the economy, which is the money every single person in the United Kingdom has in their wallet, in their bank account, no matter what. It's the money they possess. Now, the reason it never stops, like a tap, is because the government will constantly be printing more money. Essentially, you can have infinite money, theoretically. Now, imagine a cog or a small windmill which this water from the tap is dripping onto and making it move. This is essentially the economy, and this is the goods and services being bought in a country at a specific time. Now, what happens if I start to close this tap? Well, less water will come out, or in the analogy, less money is coming out. The tap can start to close for many, many different reasons, but for example, if people want to save more money, so they store the money instead of spending it on goods and services, like we previously mentioned. Things like the run-up to Christmas, or even fear of an upcoming recession. But at the end of the day, they could want to save money for many different reasons. This, in the short term, is what a recession is. So let's bring it back to the original definition and put everything in place. A recession is when the money supply starts to close because people want to save more money instead of spending it on the goods and services in the economy. This can then trickle down and damage business profits and then manufacturers' profits, and then work its way down to wages. So now you understand essentially what a recession is, let me explain how we got there. During the pandemic, our money supply tap started to close, or slow down, meaning people were saving more money. This was greatly caused by lockdown. People couldn't go out and spend money because everything was shut, so a lot of the money was saved, which of course closed the tap. So to counter this, the government did what the opposite of what we mentioned before was. They started to open the tap. They did this through something called quantitative easing. This means essentially they've printed more money. This essentially means the process of printing more money by the Bank of England, but I'll make another video on that. So back to our analogy. The Bank of England has now opened the tap fully, and money, represented by water, is spewing out uncontrollably. Now this has done wonders to the economy and the windmill, as the windmill is now spinning around really, really quickly, meaning way more goods and services are being bought. Great, right? Well, there's one downside. Because of the sheer amount of water or money that's being produced, the sink can't drain it quick enough, which means it's starting to fill up. This is what inflation is, and this is where we are as a country. This is called stagflation, and it happened in the mid to late 70s, and unfortunately it's a lot harder to solve than a normal recession. So before continuing, I just want to explain inflation. Imagine I sell cookies and everyone in the UK wants these cookies, and I am the only supplier of those cookies. Now let's say overnight 15 other people start selling exactly the same cookies. Now I have to lower my prices because there's such a huge supply. I then have to lower the prices because the value of them has gone down. Another way to look at this is through gold and diamonds, right? The reason they're so valuable is because there's only a finite amount of them. They're not infinite. If someone found 2,000 tons of gold somewhere, the price of gold would go down because it's not as valuable anymore because there's a greater supply. The same happens with money. When there is too much of one thing, it's less valuable. So if I print loads of money, then the underlying currency, the pound, becomes less valuable. Now, the inflation rate shows the increase in prices due to the lost value. So let's say the supermarket sells milk at £1.15 and then a year later they up the prices to £1.20. The reason they've done that is because the underlying currency, the pound, has become less valuable. And that is inflation. So how can you prepare yourself? Well, unfortunately, we might be strapped in the long term here. So some of the things you could do right now would be, number one, fix as many bills as you possibly can. In October, the price cap's going to be readjusted, which means it's going to go up. Unfortunately, it means the prices of energy, gas, electricity is all going to skyrocket. So fixing as many bills as you can, including potentially your mortgage, is going to be essential. Second thing you can do, you can start to look for more work. If you're currently working a part-time job, maybe take on more hours, or potentially if you feel the company you're currently working in will not be able to survive this recession, it might be an idea to update the CV. Honestly, start looking for other work. I also recommend understanding the laws in place and your own rights as an employee, just in case. Truthfully, the reason I say this is, unfortunately, recessions are horrible times, and although they can bring great opportunity, a lot of people can get damaged in the meanwhile. And as I said before, the best thing we can do is try to prepare so you and your family can get through this as unscathed as humanly possible. Anyway, if you like this video, I really appreciate you leave a like and a comment. It really helped my channel out. And if you'd like to see my content and would like to see it in the future, please subscribe.